This is the EWN Podcast Network.
Ever wondered how you could turn your side hustle into a full-time gig and spend more time together?
Hi, I'm Vikki, a #1 best-selling author.
And I'm John, a retired Los Angeles police officer. Welcome to Dig the Well, where we help couples navigate the world of business.
We've been married for 35 years, and because we built a successful side business, John retired 9 years earlier than he originally planned from the Los Angeles Police Department after 25 years on the job. Now we spend more time together, and we want to help couples like you do the same.
Join us as we help you overcome common obstacles, and we show you how to make extra income without sacrificing family time.
Ready to dig deep and build your well? Let's get started. We are excited for this episode. We're talking about kids, and who doesn't love to talk about their kids? But truly, what we want you to think about while you're listening to this, if you don't have kids yet, it might be eye-opening for you. If you do already have kids, we hope it'll be eye-opening and thought-provoking for you as well. So we really are talking about raising entrepreneurial-minded kids. Right?
Yeah. In this day and age, it's not that easy because it seems like the American dream has kind of gone away, right? I mean, that's what everybody came to America for originally 200 years ago, was they wanted to emigrate here, come to the United States, because it was the land of opportunity, right? And everybody owned their own business back in the day. It was always like Smith and Sons or whatever it was. And nowadays, it seems like most everyone are corporate employees or W-2 employees. And we talk to people about starting their own business, and they look at us like we're Martians or something. Look at us like, why would I start my own business? I don't even know where to.
Yeah, I want the safety and security of my job. I want someone telling me what to do. And we're kind of the anti that. Huh?
Right. It's true. They say, if you're working for someone, you're working for somebody else's dream, not yours. So, And I'm not saying that because I worked for someone else. I worked for the city of Los Angeles for 25 years. So I get it. It's, just because you're doing that doesn't mean you can't do something for yourself. And one of the things we loved doing was because we had our own business, because we're entrepreneurial, we raised kids that way.
Yeah.
Like that.
Just naturally. Yeah. So my background real quick, because we are different, we really are, but we are such entrepreneurs together. My grandfather emigrated to the United States through Ellis Island with his new bride from Denmark and started his own delicatessen in Brooklyn, New York. So talk about an entrepreneur. And then my father, it's funny, John, that you mentioned you can work for somebody, but then also have dreams of owning your own business. And my father worked for many large corporations in the executive role, and then wound up being a headhunter for those corporations, and then realized, hey, why don't I do this on my own? And branched out and had his own executive recruiting firm. So I come from an entrepreneur background. I grew up with it too, where John didn't. So tell us about your dad, and I know his advice to you.
Yeah, it was kind of odd. My dad actually encouraged me to start my own business when I was in high school. And he said that if he had everything to do over again, he would have done that. But I think he was of the mindset that you had to have one or the other. You couldn't have both. And maybe that was the way it was back then. I don't know. Because even with your dad, he worked for these big chemical corporations and petroleum corporations. And he didn't branch out on his own until after he resigned his position with that company.
Yeah. And I think he was in his 40s. So he kind of started later, not late in life for all you 40-somethings, but later. Yeah.
So if anyone's out there and they have that mindset where you have either one or the other, that's not true. In fact, I think it's the best of both worlds if you have both.
Yeah.
Because there were certain advantages that I had when I worked for the city of Los Angeles. Absolutely. There were great advantages to that. And then there was even more advantage having my own business or having our own business that we work together.
Right. And multiple businesses, because we've always had multiple businesses. So back to our kids, right?
Yeah, so I was going to
Yeah.
say that it really sets the right example for your kids. Your kids get to see, for us, mom and dad both working hard and working hard for their own dreams and for the family, and they saw how we worked together toward a common goal, and how we helped each other get to that goal. And I think it really set the right example for.
Yeah. And they also, as they grew older, we had family goals. We would have family goal meetings. But let's go back to our first days at Prestige Motoring Accessory in the city of Brea. Any of you in California might know where Brea is, and maybe you're one of our customers at one point. You never know. We actually, I was pregnant. So cheers to the women that decide to keep working as long as they can, because we had our own business. I kind of had to, but I was pregnant until the day before both kids were born. Like, I took no time off, but I enjoyed that. I loved moving around and being active and participating in our dream. And anyway, but we had both kids. And then, yes, of course, I stayed home for a little bit, but then I got stir crazy. I remember with our daughter Misa back in 1990, I was home and I was calling the shop. So what's going on? She might have been taking a nap or something. Do you miss me? Do the employees miss me? Is Wesley asking where I am? And I wanted to come back, and you were trying to encourage me to stay home. But anyway, I finally only stayed home a few weeks and then brought the kids to work with us.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And how was that? Did you enjoy that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Having them there with us, and so we had set up in that shop in Brea. The front part of it was like retail, and then the back part was built out. It was about 3,000 square feet of warehouse space, and that's where we actually worked on all the cars. Well, up towards the front end of that warehouse space, which was a kitchen area, break area, and it was up where the offices were behind the retail portion. Um, I built we built a big play area, giant play area that had mesh walls and had really thick, like 60s shag carpet.
I know. Where did we get that from? Your
I
grandma?
don't know
Did she
where
have
we got it.
extra? I think
It was crazy, right? Probably worth more
I think
money
it
now
was.
than it was then.
Yeah.
And then it had like really thick padding, so it was really cushy. It was actually fun. I liked to climb in there
Mhm.
and romp around with the kids. And so they had all
We had
their
a
toys in
slide.
there,
Yeah.
and they would play. And they, as they grew, I mean, they obviously don't remember it, but when they were little tiny babies, just barely out of the womb, they were watching mom and dad working, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. The tough part as a mom, people would say, "You're so lucky. You bring your kids to school. You bring your kids to work with you." And on the face of it, it sounds perfect. And most of the time it was. Most of the time it was. But if we had someone come into the front, like John just talked about the layout, someone comes into the front and we didn't have an employee that could either be up there or was stationed up there, I had to leave the children because you were usually working on a car somewhere. I had to go up to the front, and in many cases, they were crying about something. Either they were hungry, something, and I had to go handle the customer. And I knew they were fine. I wasn't leaving them in harm's way. A lot of times, it was just like a frustration cry, and they were in the playpen and they were fine. But as a mom, it was tugging on my heartstrings. So, just sometimes there's little things with that. So if any of you are going through that, I feel you, but you're going to be fine. The baby's fine. The kids are fine. And what they glean, what they learn from just being around you being an entrepreneur is way more important and special. Yeah. And you know what else too? We talked about this, was on the car ride to work. We just talked normal talk with each other, John and I. And people would tell us, "What is up with your kids? They have, at little age." I remember them saying their vocabulary is incredible. And we didn't really know what we were doing differently. Yes, we read them books at night, the normal things parents do, but we kind of like didn't remember having that conversation.
yeah.
Like, I bet it's because we're not changing the way we speak to each other. We're talking about business as we drive and just normal stuff. Do
Yeah.
you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much your kids, they're like sponges, right? How much they take in and how much they learn, how much they observe. And they were with us all the time, all the time. So they saw everything. So
Yeah.
that was, it could be good or bad, but I think by that time, at that time in our careers and in our relationship, we were no longer yelling and screaming at each other. Because honestly, at the beginning,
Yeah.
wow. And we've talked about this before, like at our very first shop, that was in La Habra. And I remember next door to us was this really nice family. They made pastries for
Costco, when Costco was brand new.
Yeah, so they had this massive setup where they were making pastries, and they were there all the time. And what they heard through that wall, I mean, I felt so bad. But they knew that we weren't like physically violent. But we
Right.
were just yelling at each other all the time because we were so frustrated. And how we ended up staying together and getting married, or not having the police called on us. Never once. I
No.
guess maybe and we may think it's worse than what it really
Yeah.
was. It may not have been that bad because no one ever called
Yeah.
the police on us. Thank goodness.
No, thank goodness. And you're right. We got that all out before we were married, because that was before we were married and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so then when the kids were born and we're bringing them to the Brea shop,
Yeah.
no problem at all. And it was just a dream. Honestly, I look back and I just love those times. And we found old pictures that we put a slide in there, one of those plastic slides, and they had so much fun. Yeah. Well, and then as they started to grow up, we wound up closing our shop and bringing it home. And you'll have to listen about that on a other episode. But we ended up closing the doors, brought that home, and had a mobile service. But
Yeah.
still, they were part of it all. And then we put them into elementary school. And we were just chatting about that. Remember, the kids actually went to a summer camp that was for entrepreneurs. Kids, like we put them as in second grade, third grade, fourth grade. And we were chatting with the kids the other day about that. We were trying to remember the name of the camp, but it was brilliant because it was teaching them skills on owning their own business, like how to open a bank account. I remember was like one of the things that they went over. Computers were really coming into full form. Then they were learning more than mom and dad were, so much. So if you know of a summer camp that is for little baby entrepreneurs, I think it's so smart these days. Yeah. Yeah. And then, part of the thing that we've noticed as the kids have grown, now they're in their 30s. Yes, I know we don't look like we could have 30-year-old kids, but they are in their 30s. They both are entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
They both, yes, they've had regular jobs too, but always having a business. Like right out of college, they started a direct sales business, and they both still have that going. And then on top of that, our son is an Audible narrator,
Right.
and has some other businesses as well.
And interesting. I just thought of this when you brought up the Audible. So I was really proud of him because the first contract that he signed for the first book deal that he did, he said he negotiated with the author to be paid a commission, royalty on the book, on the sales of the book, rather than being paid for hours. Because most of the most people in Audible, they're being paid for the hours worked. So if it takes you 40 hours to do this recording, you're paid so much for the 40 hours. Where John, our son, had that entrepreneurial mindset to say, no, I don't want to be paid hours for dollars. I'd rather get a commission on the book because I know the book's going to be successful, which it was. It was actually
Yeah.
part of a series of books. So he did all of them.
And he's still the author because she continues to write. Yeah. And she says she'd never go with anybody else. Yeah.
But that just shows you that how much they pick up without, because he didn't consult with me. He didn't consult with anyone else.
Or me.
He just knew to do it. He just knew that, hey, this is what an entrepreneur does. This is what a business owner would do. And this is my business that I'm doing with the Audible. And I'm gonna
Do it
negotiate
the smart way.
commission.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And our daughter also is a 1099, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, she is in medical device sales, but it's technically she's an independent contractor, super smart.
Yeah.
So if
I
you,
don't think she would do that job if she was going to be paid hourly.
right, who would, right? So
Lots of people.
I know
Lots
that's
of
right.
people.
I say who would because I
Yeah.
just don't have that mindset. But you're right.
Yeah, but Misa would.
Lots of
Yeah.
people do. And oh, one tip that was so intriguing with that job is the man that hired her for the position had seen her interview. She had done a video interview. And he said, it's because your parents, you mentioned that your parents are entrepreneurs and so are you, that she stood out in the crowd.
That's right.
Isn't that huge? Right. So, because he's a business owner, he knows what business owners go through, that inner burning drive that gets you up in the morning, keeps you up late, keeps you going, keeps you, going through all the peaks and valleys of your entrepreneur roller coaster. Yeah, it's important. So, we hear this a lot from people about, I can't start my own business because I have kids and they're in the thick of high school or even junior high and all the sports, just I can't do it. And what do we say?
Yeah, we always just tell them, that's your kids should be the reason why you do it, not the excuse not to do it. And it breaks our hearts when we have people that tell us, I would, except that I'm pregnant, I'm going to be giving birth. And it's like, great, then be that example for your kids because you can't buy that. You can't teach it. You can only just do it.
Model it. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah, so true. They are your why, right? They're
Mhm.
your why. And if you're using them as an excuse not to build your dream and instead build somebody else's, it's really kind of a crime. It's criminal being a police wife over here. No, but it really is a shame. And so we encourage you to also set goals with yourselves, you and your spouse, or if you have a business on your own, set your own goals. But if you have kids, include them in not just your goals, but the family's goals, right?
Mhm.
And they're having their own personal goals. Like maybe if mommy and dad achieve this, we'll go to Disneyland, right? That was a lot of
Yeah.
times our
Yeah, I
kids'
remember,
goals.
didn't you have them help you with it
Yeah,
somehow?
totally. The dream board. Is that what you mean?
No, I would just meant that you had certain things you wanted to do, and then you would have them help you with getting some of that work done.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
little tasks and
yeah.
whatnot that they felt included in it. They felt a big part of it. And then once we reached that goal, they reached it with us.
Right, exactly. Like we were part of an Amway business, and say what you want about Amway, we loved it. Such good family values. We became closer as a couple, but that was the first one where I would have either Misa or our son John stamping my catalogs, and I would pay them hourly for the job they did, or sometimes um, by each how many catalogs they stamped per unit, right? And then even I started a candle business and had them help me with that as well. Or I had these lap boards that at my shows that each guest would get a lap board that had a catalog in it in the order form. Well, I would have them stuff my lap boards, get my kit, if you will, ready to go out the door. If they would help me carry my things to the car as I was leaving for my show, it was part of it. And also, like another big tip, were you going to say something
Oh,
on that? That we firmly believe is that you don't give your kids an allowance. That's just our personal belief as entrepreneurs. They need to earn it, right? And so, we would pay them for each chore that they did. We had a list, whether it was cleaning the toilets, cleaning the bathroom, taking the trash out, mowing the lawn, whatever it was. They got paid per um, per activity instead of an allowance. Same with if they wanted to go to the movies with their buddies, and they were like, "Mom, Dad, can I go to the movies?" It would be like, well, did you spend your earned money? We called it. We didn't call it allowance. Did you spend your earned money? Oh no, shoot. Yeah, I did. Well, guess what? You could wash the car. You could wash the car for $5 or whatever it might be, right? So we taught them that. And I think that's huge as well. It's teaching them like good work ethic, and money doesn't grow on trees, and you're not just given money as a handout, right?
Yeah. Big thing, I think, is the work ethic part.
Yeah, exactly. And, one other thing I wanted to touch on was personal development. It's not taught in schools. That and finances, right? They both should be taught in schools. At least as far as I know, it's not taught in most schools. And personal development for us, we started reading books and listening to tapes way back in the day. Now it would be a podcast like this. But we would listen, or books on tape, books on Audible. We would read a book and have our kids read that book. And sometimes we'd also have them do a book report on that book. And usually that was when they were in trouble. But we always wanted to make book reading fun. And so a lot of times too, this just came to mind, we would go to Barnes and Noble, and I think there are still some Barnes and Nobles out there. And if we didn't have something to do one day, instead of going to the movies or somewhere else, we'd go to Barnes and Noble. I know that might make us sound like a bunch of nerds, but I would peruse the personal development aisle, and the kids would see me doing that. And they would pick out a book here and there that had a title that resonated with them. And a lot of times I would just say, open it up, read the foreword, read the introduction. If it still speaks to you, we'll get it, right? Those were some of the most fun times. And of course, they got Harry Potter and so many of the others as well. But remember all those trips to Barnes and Noble? That was so much fun that I don't think, maybe a lot of people do. So, yeah. Well, I'm trying to think one last key point that we might want to leave with you on how you can be successful in planting the seed of entrepreneurial-minded kids. Do you have any last minute
No, I was just going to say that, from a purely selfish point of view too, I would think most of y'all would be happier having that type of raising that type of kid. Rather than having a child that you've raised that when they grow up and go to work, all they want to do is work for someone else and trade hours for dollars and just do that for the rest of their lives, and really never reaching their potential, if you will. But I don't think almost anyone who's a W-2 employee is really going to reach their true and full potential. You only do that when you strike out on your own. You take some risks, but you get rewarded. There's a risk-reward trade-off there. And I think and I know for you, Vikki and I, it's so much more rewarding as parents that we did that. And I feel so much better being a parent, and I think we did the right thing for our kids too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy with our kids' lives right now. Yeah. And I can't help but think we had a hand in that, and it feels good.
Yeah.
All right. If you like what you heard, maybe want to share it with a friend, please do like and subscribe to our Dig the Well podcast. We are so excited to be here sharing different topics every week, and we hope you enjoy it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us on Dig the Well.
We hope you feel empowered and ready to take on new challenges.
Remember, if we can do it, so can you. Keep learning, keep believing, and going after your dreams.
And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs a little inspiration or maybe a nudge in the right direction.
Help us grow this community of go-getters. Together, we can achieve greatness and get back to family.
Thanks for listening, and let's keep digging the well.